My name is Aiden, 32 years old, and for most of my life my family saw me as the one who'd just go along with anything, the reserved one, the one who never rocked the boat. And for a while I fit that mold. But when my grandparents passed away and left me their entire estate, house, savings, and stocks worth just shy of $900,000, something in me changed. I started observing more closely. I listened intently. Most importantly, I planned. I knew exactly what kind of people my family were. My brother, Tyler, 3 years my junior, is all flash and charm. The kind of guy who could convince you to lend him $5,000 for a guaranteed venture with a grin and a lie. He'd gotten away with plenty over the years. Credit cards opened in Mom's name, a borrowed car that disappeared. And every time Mom covered for him, saying he was just finding his way. Me? I was always the dependable one, the fallback, the one who cleaned up the messes, but I was done with that role. When Grandpa died 2 years ago, a year after Grandma, he left everything to me alone. I wasn't shocked. I'd been their anchor when no one else bothered to check in. I drove them to doctor's visits, picked up their groceries, sorted their endless paperwork. Tyler? He'd breeze in for Christmas, snap a few social media pics, and vanish until the next holiday. But when the will was read and my name stood alone, I saw Mom's face tighten. That look of disapproval, like I'd stolen something. That's when I knew trouble was brewing. The house was the centerpiece, a stunning Victorian with crimson brick, towering windows, and ivy weaving up its walls like a scene from a novel. It was a historic gem, passed down through 3 generations, meticulously maintained by my grandparents. The neighborhood had skyrocketed in value over the past decade, with every nearby home gutted and flipped, but they never sold. Now it was mine. I didn't rush to move in. I stayed in my apartment across town, quietly organizing everything. I had the house appraised, consulted an estate lawyer, and set up a trust, not just for the house, but for all the assets, savings, stocks, everything. I kept it secret. Not a word to Tyler, not to Mom. Nobody. I secured the original deed in a safe place and transferred the property title, assets, and accounts into an irrevocable trust, with myself as trustee. I even shifted the utilities to a business name linked to the trust, paying extra fees to insure it. I didn't mind the cost. I knew my family too well. I knew they'd try something. For a while, things stayed calm. Too calm. Tyler sent a few texts asking if he could borrow the backyard for a barbecue. There is no backyard feature worth borrowing. Mom dropped hints about how unjust it was for one person to inherit everything. She even said, "You know your brother was always Grandpa's favorite," as if that justified anything. I just nodded, deflected, and stayed quiet. I let them think I was clueless, that I hadn't taken steps to protect myself. The storm hit last month. I was at the house, trimming hedges, keeping the place pristine, when Mom's car rolled into the driveway. Tyler stepped out first, all smiles and shades like he was walking onto a movie set. Mom followed, clutching a clipboard, looking like she was about to unveil a new real estate venture. "Hey, man," Tyler said, slapping my shoulder. "We've got news." I raised an eyebrow. "We?" Mom stepped closer. "We consulted a lawyer. It turns out the house should have been split between you two. Grandpa didn't update the will after Grandma passed. It was an oversight, but we've fixed it." I stared at her. "Fixed what? Exactly?" Tyler waved a folded paper. "We transferred the title to my name. It's done. You've got until Friday to clear out, but no hard feelings, right? We'll give you time to grab your stuff." I looked from him to Mom, taking in their smug expressions, their sheer nerve. My pulse didn't spike. I wasn't rattled. I almost laughed because they genuinely thought I was that careless. I gave them a small, tight smile, the kind that unsettles people. "You think I'd let that happen?" Tyler chuckled, like I'd cracked a joke. "It's already done, bro. You've been living in a dream world." Mom chimed in, her voice softer like she was soothing a child. "We're not trying to hurt you, Aiden. It's just logical. Tyler can handle the property, maybe sell it for a profit. You've got your own place. This way, everyone benefits. I didn't argue, I just nodded slowly and said, "Understood." 2 days later, they returned with a moving truck and 2 hired movers. I'd anticipated it. They pulled up, laughing, acting like they owned the place. Tyler sat in the passenger seat, sipping coffee, while Mom directed the movers toward the front door. But then they saw me on the porch, arms crossed, next to a man in a crisp navy suit. He held a thick folder and wore a badge on his belt. The folder bore the name of my trust, a name they didn't recognize. The badge was official. The suit was professional. And the man? He was from the county property records office. They stopped dead. Tyler stepped out, confused. "What's this about?" I stayed silent. The man, Mr. Levin, spoke with calm authority. "Are you Tyler Green?" Tyler's brow furrowed. "Yeah, who's this?" Mr. Levin stepped forward. "I'm with the County Property Records Office, here on behalf of the trustee of the East Thornhill Estate, this property." He gestured to the house. "I have documents proving the deed has been held in a trust since last April, managed by Aiden Green. Any claims to ownership since then, including a fraudulent title transfer, are invalid and potentially criminal." Tyler's face paled. "Fraudulent?" he stammered, glancing at Mom. "What's he talking about?" Mom stepped forward, her voice tight. "There's a mistake. We reviewed the old deed. It was still in Grandpa's name. We assumed—" "You assumed wrong," I cut in, my voice steady. "I never left the property in my name. It's in a trust. That's why you couldn't find it in public records. You tried to push a fake transfer using an outdated document through some shady registry." Mr. Levin nodded. "I've filed a fraud report on the attempted transfer. Normally we'd issue a warning, but given the movers, the threats to evict the trustee, we're moving to enforcement." Tyler blinked. "Enforcement?" I turned to him, my tone even. "It means if you step foot in this house without my permission, it's trespassing. And if you try to mess with the trust or its assets, you're facing charges. Multiple ones." For a moment, no one spoke. The movers stood frozen halfway to the porch, exchanging glances like they'd stumbled into a family war zone. One coughed and backed toward the truck. Tyler found his voice. "You're really doing this to family?" My voice stayed calm, too calm. "Family, you showed up with a forged title and movers to take my home. The one thing Grandpa and Grandma wanted me to have. Don't talk to me about family." Mom's jaw tightened. "They were confused, Aiden. They didn't understand." "No," I snapped. "You didn't understand. You thought I'd stay the pushover I was at 20. The kid you could guilt into fixing Tyler's messes or lending money just this once. But I'm not that kid anymore. I learned, I watched, and I prepared." Mr. Levin flipped through his folder. "For clarity, we've notified the local police. If either of you returns with any claim to this property, there's a file ready, civil and criminal." Tyler's eyes flashed, but he stayed quiet. He turned to the movers and barked, "We're out of here, now." He didn't look at me again. Mom hesitated, her mouth opening like she wanted to say something, but nothing came out. She followed him. The truck's taillights faded down the street, and the air grew heavy with that post-conflict silence. Mr. Levin handed me a copy of the fraud report and said, "Call if they return." I thanked him, and after he left, I stood on the porch, letting the quiet sink in. It was the kind of stillness that follows a battle years in the making. I thought of Grandpa's words. Know your people. Not just what they say, but what they do when they think you're not looking. He was right. I'd watched, and I'd acted. But it wasn't over. 3 days later, a typed formal letter arrived from a new lawyer hired by Mom. It claimed she suffered emotional distress from being excluded from the estate and, as a direct descendant, deserved a share. She demanded $150,000, co-ownership of the house, and a monthly stipend until further notice. I stared at the letter, numb at first, then shaking with anger. Not at the money, but at the audacity to frame this as a misunderstanding one day and demand cash the next, like I was a stranger in a lawsuit. The phrase familial obligation burned in my mind, as if I owed them everything and they owed me nothing. I didn't reply right away. I knew better than to act on emotion. I called Mr. Levin, who referred me to Sonia Cruz, a sharp estate attorney in her early 40s. Quiet but fierce, she didn't need to posture. I gave her everything: the trust papers, Mom's letter, Tyler's social media posts about his big plans. Within 24 hours, Sonia issued a cease and desist to both of them, stating the trust was untouchable and they had no legal ground. But Sonia dug deeper. She found Tyler had forged multiple signatures for the title transfer, using a fake notary stamp and a shady out-of-state registry to dodge local scrutiny. She alerted a county DA's fraud investigator, who was already probing that registry. Tyler had just made himself an easy target. I didn't tell them I knew. If they wanted to keep pushing, I'd let them dig deeper. And they did. 2 weeks after the cease and desist, another letter came. This one from Mom directly. Less formal, but unmistakably her. It was laced with guilt trips. After everything I've done for you, you were always so quiet. I raised you better than this. It ended with, you can stop this now by doing what's right. Families shouldn't need lawyers when love can fix things. I didn't respond. Sonia advised against it. I forwarded the letter to her, adding it to our file for a potential restraining order. Then came the next move. One morning, I found a folded flyer stuffed in my door handle. No address, just Tyler's handwriting. Hope you're enjoying your throne. Remember who'll be there when the cash runs out. I laughed, a quiet, weary laugh. He had no idea how far I'd outgrown him. I scanned the note and added it to the file, but I wasn't just defending anymore. I was ready to push back. Sonia noted that proving harassment could escalate things. Tyler's new job at a trendy real estate firm, one obsessed with its ethical image, wouldn't look kindly on his forged documents. I didn't act rashly. I waited. Then something unexpected happened. My cousin Megan, who I hadn't spoken to in years, messaged me on Facebook. Hey, can we talk? Your mom's been telling family some things. Thought you should know. We met for coffee the next day. Megan, always blunt, showed me texts, voicemails, and a group chat with 2 other cousins. Mom had been spinning a tale that I'd manipulated Grandpa in his final years, tricking him into changing the will while he was frail. She even suggested I'd exploited him emotionally, legally, maybe worse. I felt sick. That's when I realized this wasn't about the house or money anymore. It was about control. Mom couldn't handle that I'd said no, that I'd protected what was mine. She wanted to break me. Megan looked at me and said, I don't buy it. Neither do Jamie or Chris. But she's not stopping. She's calling everyone. I nodded, my heart pounding harder than I liked. Thanks for the heads up. I didn't sleep much that night. If she was willing to slander me to the family, to destroy my name just to bully me into giving in, I had to end this, not just for me, but to ensure she and Tyler couldn't do this to anyone else. So I planned. Sonia helped me draft a legal declaration, a clear statement backed by evidence. The forged title, the fake notary, the letters, the harassment, the smear campaign. I included Megan's texts, Mom's voicemails accusing me of greed, and the lawyer's $150,000 demand. But I didn't just file it. I sent a concise version to every relative Mom had contacted. My message was simple. There's been talk. Before you judge, here are the facts, with documents. I won't discuss this again. Believe me or don't. But at least you have the truth. I sent it to 27 people. The response was immediate. 5 relatives replied within hours. Some apologetic, others shocked. My Aunt Robin, who'd always adored Tyler, called me crying. I believed her, she said. I didn't know. I'm so sorry, Aiden. I didn't want apologies. I just said I hoped she saw why I'd acted. Not everyone was convinced. 3 relatives on Mom's side accused me of twisting the story, one even claiming I'd faked the documents. I knew I wouldn't sway everyone, but for every skeptic, 5 others thanked me for the truth. Then came the move I'd been waiting for. I sent an anonymous tip to Tyler's real estate firm through their ethics hotline, a detailed report with the forged title, the fraudulent filing, and the damage to their transparent brand. I expected a week-long process. It took 2 days. Tyler's name vanished from their website. A college friend in the local real estate association told me the firm launched an audit after my tip, uncovering other issues in Tyler's files. He wasn't just fired. He was reported to the state licensing board. His license was suspended pending review. Tyler called me 11 times that day. I didn't pick up. That weekend, he posted a vague Instagram story, a black screen with, "Some people ruin your life and act like the victim." He didn't name me, but he didn't need to. The people who mattered knew the truth, but it wasn't over. 2 days later, a county notice arrived. A warrant was issued for Tyler on charges of attempted property fraud and filing false documents. I stared at the notice, numb. This wasn't what I'd wanted. I didn't set out to ruin him, but he'd forced my hand, and now there were consequences. His arraignment was quiet. No headlines, no drama. Just a court date, a lawyer he couldn't afford, and a future of legal trouble. He'd likely avoid jail, maybe probation, fines, community service. But the record would stick. Jobs would be tougher. Trust, harder to regain. The next time he tried to play the slick real estate guru, this would haunt him. Mom went silent after the evidence went out. No calls, no apologies, no demands. But 2 months later, a letter came from her lawyer, formally withdrawing all claims to the estate and requesting no further contact. She'd surrendered. She knew she'd lost. I didn't feel victorious. I felt liberated. That night I walked through the Victorian, barefoot on the hardwood, the air carrying hints of cedar and old paper. The house was still, serene, mine. In the study where Grandpa used to read in his leather chair, I whispered, "I protected it. Like I promised, I think he'd have been proud. I didn't just keep the house. I kept my self-respect, my future. Tyler lost his career. Mom lost her story. And I gained something they never saw coming, the courage to stop being their pawn. For the first time, I wasn't the quiet one. I was the one who ended the fight,